times, "Please leave my property. You are not welcome here." He refused to do so. Then he began backing up. I escorted him to his vehicle, where then he said, "I don't know if my car will start," or something along those lines. He then put some sort of paper in his window from Facebook. I don't know what it said. The car wasn't leaving. I called the Mahoning Township Police Department to have Mr. Bradley removed from my property. Magically, the stars aligned, the car started, Mr. Bradley left. The next day, I received harassing emails in my school email account, and I received harassment via Mr. Bradley's relatives on the Facebook platform. And again, I contacted Mahoning Police. About a month later, I learned that an administrative position was going to be opening in the Lehighton Area School District, and I wanted to apply. I had had a lot of success as a classroom teacher in 9 years in this district and others, distinguished ratings. I was very proud of what I did as a teacher. I thought I could apply that higher at the building level. So I applied. I called Mrs. Bowman. I said, "Mrs. Bowman, I am sorry, I can no longer help you with your campaign. There's a difference between being an administrator and being a classroom teacher. I don't want a conflict of interest." She texted me back. She said, "I understand. Good luck." That was it. I interviewed. I got the position. Mr. Bradley posted the article from the Times News on his campaign website with the caption, "Clairvoyant?" with a question mark, when I was hired for that position. Now, we fast forward throughout the year. We come to an episode in June where students were searched. Suddenly, I'm in a meeting, Mr. Bradley shows up. There were rather unflattering comments made about me during that meeting, and then all of a sudden, over the summer, I strip searched students, patted them down, and now I'm posting sexually explicit messages on my Twitter. My Twitter is @MrHauser LAHS. If you would like to go visit it, there's lots of stuff on there supporting our students. The sexually explicit image, from what I gather based on the threatening and harassing emails that I got about it, was somehow through the course of Twitter, an image came up posted by one of our students. There was a school club trip, I won't say which one so that I don't identify the students. In this picture, the students had done very well at this competition. And they were posing with peace signs, pointing, this and that. I thought, wow, here's like 12 of our kids who just medaled in a state competition. I'm going to hit retweet and say, "Kudos everybody, job well done." What I didn't see was in the back row, one of those kids was making a gesture that may or may not have related to some sort of sexual message. Now, I'm 35 years old. I'm no longer cool. I don't know what slang and gestures and all that are there. I'm a learned man, but I am not always 100% knowledgeable in contemporary adolescent gestures, okay? There's a couple I know, but they change. I don't know what it means. I get an email. "Hey, this kid's making this gesture, better watch out." I delete the post. Now, none of that's told in the context of this meeting. None of that's on YouTube. What's on YouTube? I strip search. What'll be on YouTube later? Mr. Hauser, this man that I'm pointing to, posted sexually explicit imagery online. What does that sound like? It sounds like I'm posting horrible things. I'm an educator. I got 2 boys in this district who see that stuff. I got a 5-year-old in kindergarten, I got an 8-year-old in the 3rd grade. I'm born 3 blocks from this building, I'm raised in this area. I'm Lehighton through and through. I was initially hired at the Whitehall County School District to start teaching. I gave up about $10,000 in salary and benefits to come to Lehighton. Doesn't entitle me to anything other than the pride of working for my home. And this is the slander that I got to deal with. This is why we are having the meeting here tonight. Not to debate handbooks, not to give everybody a warm, fuzzy feeling. In my opinion, it's a personal score being settled about a school board election 18 months ago. I'm done. Thank you.
Good job. All right. Now, so my question is, what I'm really here for, way separate than that, is the handbook itself has to be told to all the students and the parents, and we want to make sure they have it available.
They have it.
I agree. And that handbook has to be approved by a board after they review it. in that handbook, currently, there's so much ambiguity, like you said, everything's separate and independent to how it's being handled, that we have evidence of selective enforcement and favoritism. So the question becomes, can we define it, number
Can
one?
you please have an
If we-
example of selective enforcement and favoritism, because I would love to hear one.
Okay. I'll be glad to. Let me finish my thing. I'll answer whatever question you want. We can have an interview. I love it. The more you speak, the better I'll plan. So the question is, we can. So the question then is, can we define it? Can we give these kids their Miranda warning that's made up by ourselves inside of the school so that they do know what their rights are? They can make an educated decision. They can learn to make that educated decision because it's important. They should have the right. They should know what those rights are. And that's how the world works, and that's how this little microcosm should work.
But you mentioned at the beginning of this districts, what districts are you referring to?
I'll get you a list of other districts that have Miranda warnings, or their versions of a Miranda
Pennsylvania
warning.
School District?
Yes, Pennsylvania School District.
Can I also be clear on this too? In one of these meetings, I asked the question when this Miranda thing came up, the warnings came up. I said, okay, I have a food fight in the cafeteria. Does that mean I have to call parents into the school from work before I ask the question, who threw the banana? The question I got was yes. That was the answer. So, I mean, how,
I mean,
to
there's
what degree are we
again,
taking
I
this?
think the issue is here.
The point is, if you document it, you'll know.
No, because there's so many different situations. If you were in the education business, Mr. Bradley.
Yes, I was.
Probably, what's that?
Yes, I was.
Oh, high school?
Actually, it was a children at risk school.
Was it Camp Adams?
Say it again?
Was it Camp Adams or some version of that?
I don't know Camp Adams, sorry.
You don't know that? Where was it located? In what state
Are
did you
you-
attain your certification?
Okay, so anyway, do I have it? Do I have a? Say it again?
Why ruin a good
What would you like to
story
know?
with the facts, right? Mr. Anderson?
Why ruin a
Why
good
ruin the
story with the
story?
truth?
You got it.
That's right.
Transparency, what
You got
state
it.
is this and where
Do a
is
good
this
job with
located?
that.
Thank you. So the
But
question,
again, they're case by case.
but it's not a case by case. You should know whether or not it's level 1, level 2. You have level 1, 2, and 3 in here. You have different levels.
But there is other things. We're not.
You're not going to strip search a kid looking for someone that stole a pencil.
Again,
The meeting's
I'm
over.
going to end the meeting basically because we're not getting anywhere.
You let him stand there. I'll answer all his questions. The question becomes, when are you going to let these students know what their rights are and are not? And when are you going to define them?
Policy online, that's what it is. I have nothing else to reference.
When you, okay, so here, I'll ask a simpler question. Hold on a second. Let's just try it this way. And Mr. Filer, you have access to help him answer these questions if he needs. So, who changed the policy, the handbook, about this strip search?
It's gonna go on to Lisa.
About search?
Keep going.
Yeah. So who changed that policy? The one that Melissa just sent me, hey, there was an update? Who changed it?
I didn't send you the right one that we approved at the board meeting. So if you go back in your board meetings,
Right.
the one that's approved, the one I sent you today was the one that was approved.
Updated, and it was updated.
It was
So who,
updated and approved by the board, and
Correct.
I grabbed the wrong one when I sent the file.
I understand that. So the question is, when it was updated, who made the change?
That was done in consultation with Mrs. Howland, myself, and Attorney Schwab.
Okay. And it was officialized when?
Your board meeting, July 20.
Perfect, thank you very much. And what procedure and policy got referenced for that strip search or that searching policy? Thank you. What case law was reviewed and given to the board so they could? Say it again?
That's what we're allowed to do by law.
I know you're allowed to do it, and you got a lot of rubber stampers in the world. My question is, when you show up with a handbook that was changed during the summer, and it was changed for reasons that our solicitor convinced, worked with, whatever you want to call it,
Our solicitor reviews it to make sure that there's nothing in there that we're not permitted.
it's so ambiguous, there's nothing there. That's the whole point. It can be used in any way. So the point is that,
That's your opinion.
I understand that. If anyone else that can read can understand it as well.
I understand
So
that it's wrong.
if you look at it,
Can read in here.
I'm suggesting that the school district administration, prior to going to the board, provides the information that our solicitor provided when you're making a policy change or when you're making a handbook change. Because they should be referred to by law, because there are rules, there are consequences for these rules, and they should know what they are.
I'd like
Because
to
the
know
biggest
what
thing about
policy-
consequences,
I'd
they
like to
should be
know what policy
known,
enables
and they should be fairly applied.
Street to make an academic intervention plan. That's not a subset, and it helps kids. I'd like that.
There's
I
many
mean,
things that,
There's-
you know,
Yeah.
decisions
Yeah,
and
there's-
processes that.
you guys do a
School-wide-
fantastic
School-wide
job.
positive
Yes,
behaviorism
they do.
policy, it's
They do an
something we do with.
And I listened to
within
the
it, but it's
majority of
still
our,
referenced in the student handbook. There's many.
I understand. But the reality is, very clearly, these kids, not my reality, the reality is, these kids, like your kid, and you mentioned, they make bad choices. They should be educated as to which choices they have to make, because that's our job as educators. And then let them make a decision for their best interest. The difference is who's responsible for their best interest. Currently, it's a parent.
Just give me an example.
I'm giving you an example.
A student, and
I'll give you an example.
I'll use as a child, I'll use my own child as an example. Opportunity to go somewhere for college. You think I'm gonna turn that choice over to an 18-year-old kid to make a $200,000, $300,000 decision on where he's going to school? It's not happening. It's not happening. I mean, you're asking students to make decisions on their own at a very young age. You know, you're sitting here and continue to talk about this. Oh, they're not even gonna know what they're deciding on a lot of times.
They need to learn that here. That's my point. They need to learn that here.
go ahead, Mr. Bush.
Sure.
I believe the policies changed, or the handbook change that you're referring to, that Attorney Schwab worked on. That
He
was
looks at
put,
all of them.
yeah, that was put into the handbook because at the end of last year, there was a big fuss that saying the parents aren't aware that their children could be susceptible to a search.
Correct.
That was the issue. So we put that in there to appease the people so that they now know, in black and white writing, that they're susceptible to a search.
It
That was all
doesn't,
that
it doesn't
problem.
specifically say that.
And it doesn't say to what level of the search you're gonna have, and whether or not it's reasonable suspicion or probable cause.
Guys, you're gonna be wrong until you do exactly what Dave says. He's gonna argue till he's blue in the face
Right, but there's no.
that you're wrong and he's right, and he's not gonna
Clear
quit.
set standards,
They're not.
and there's just not any clear set standards. I've been telling you